So we're going to be looking at 6.2, designing a web page. So we're going to look at basically what goes into designing a web page, what are the elements of a web page. That's what we'll be looking at today. So we're going to start from the top. The first paragraph, Alia, could you read for us?
Yes, sir. As you start your design, you need to think about who will be interested in the web pages and consider the layout and links to the other pages. Remember that every web page is different, but most have certain features that are common to all web pages. There are only online website builders that offer free design features or templates so that the users spend less time with formatting and more time focusing on the content. A general layout of web page is shown in figure 6.2.
Good. So we had actually started this paragraph last week, and we discussed already, even in the previous chapter, chapter 6.1, when you're designing a website, there are a few things you need to think about. Who is interested in the website? You need to consider the layout, what links you're going to put in that website, what content. So content is also going to deal with layout, how you position your information, how you position your videos, your animation, things like that. And every web page is going to be different because you're going to have different information on each web page. And we were looking at the website builders last week in our last class. So we had an overview of that, how we're going to be using it. We looked at 3 ways that you can make a website. The website builder was one. You guys can remember the other 2?
HTML and Word.
And Word, very good. So that was HTML and Word. So that's 3 methods. There are more methods, but that's 3 methods that we are going to consider when it comes to building a web page. Let's see. Good. So a general layout of a web page is shown in figure 6.2 here. So notice in this image here, we have a general layout of a web page. What does it look similar to? What does the layout look similar to?
So a room layout.
Room layout. Okay, if you look at it from a top-down view, okay. But in terms of software, what is software does it look like? You would have used it last term.
So like a Word document.
Right, like a Word document. Does it look like a Word document to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. And that's basically what we've been talking about so far. That a web page, it is like a document. It has similarities like a document. You have a header section where you put information that is going to be at the top. Like for example, if you're creating a letter, like how you guys created your letter for your SBA, you had a header section where you place the business name and all other information and the logo and all of that. That goes in the header of your web page. The footer is going to have any additional information, additional contact addresses and all of those things, opening time and so on. Left and right sidebar, those are like the margins. They might have additional information also, just like how your margins might have some side notes and so on. And your main content is going to be in that body area. All of your paragraphs, all of your list of items, your images, your videos, whatever you're going to put as content is going to be in that center area there. So this is a general layout of how a website would be designed. It's not a standard layout, it's a general layout. It's not one that you absolutely must follow, but it's one that most persons would generally use as a guide. Header at the top, footer at the bottom, content in the center. Alright, so next paragraph, Durrani.
The header displays the name of the website, webpage, blog name, logo, or company name. The name is usually placed at the top left corner of each webpage. The header also provides a short statement or phrase that explains the purpose of the webpage. If you are on a webpage that is not the main page, clicking on the header takes the user back to the main page.
Good. So as I mentioned already, it's just like if you're creating a letter. You have that letterhead. So the letterhead is going to have the name of your website, YouTube, Google, whatever the case may be. So for example, if we go to Google, this here is going to be their header. This is their header section here, where you see up to the line. So notice you have the name of the website. Even if you go to YouTube, they would have a header section. So notice the name with the logo at the top left. That is the pattern we are following. So they have the name of the website, they have the web page, they have the blog name, the logo, the company name. That would be in that header section. So it all depends on what it is you're creating. If you're creating a website, it's just a website, you don't have a company, then it's a website name going to be there. If it's a company, then the company name is going to be there. Basically, the important information is going to be there. The name of the company or the website. That's usually going to be in the top left corner of that web page. It's going to have the logo and the name as we just showed you. Now you can usually add a short statement or phrase that could give persons like a little idea of what your website is about, like for example like a slogan or some sort of phrase that tells them the purpose of your website. So like if it's not a popular one, they get an idea as to what you're about. Now the purpose of that header too is so that it can take you back to the main page. Remember I talked about in our previous classes when it comes to navigational links. The purpose of these navigational links is so that you do not get stranded on a page. You don't have to worry about that when you go to a certain page that you can't go back to any one of the other pages. So these are all navigational links that you're seeing here. So whenever you go on one of these links, you're not afraid or you cannot go back to the previous page. You can always click on the logo and it will take you back to the main page. So that's another purpose of that that header section, so that you can navigate and most importantly to take you back to the main page. So those are reasons for that header section there. Now, what is the purpose of the sidebars? Jeremiah?
The left or right sidebar includes a navigational bar or menu that shows links to each of the major sections of the web page. The content area contains the most important paragraphs or images on the web page. The information that you place here should attract the visitor into reading more and staying on the web page or website.
Good. So the left and right sidebar, those will include navigational bars or menus, so that it will give you additional links, maybe to maybe to other websites or even links to other pages on the same website. So for example, if you go back to YouTube, notice they only have a left sidebar. They don't have any right sidebar. So they have a left sidebar here with these navigational links that take you to different parts of their web page. If you go to Ministry of Education website, I think they have both. No, they have they have left and right sidebar. So notice on the right here you have some links also. So there you can see they are basically following that general layout. This general layout here: header, footer, left and right sidebar with content. So on their website they have the header section at the top here with the logo that is clickable, that can take you back to the main page. That's the header. They have the left sidebar with all of these links, and they also have the right sidebar with the links also. And this is the section. So the footer section has additional information, additional numbers, opening and closing time, their location, and other links also at the bottom here can be in the footer section. So notice they have their logo, they have their name, and they also have a phrase: eliminating illiteracy, modernizing education, and strengthening tolerance. So that gives an idea as to what the website or what the organization is about. So they're actually following the general layout there to create their web page. So the left and right sidebar is for navigational links. Now the content area, that's the most important area, because that is the area where that's the reason for creating your web page, because you wanted to share content, you wanted to share some sort of information. So like how we have the Ministry of Education's website, they wanted to share information about how they launch risk management, how they made certain policies, about their workshops and all of that. They wanted to share those content, they wanted to share those information. So this section here is the most important section, because that's why persons are going on your website. So you're gonna have paragraphs, you're gonna have images, whatever is needed to make the content. So the information that you put there, it should attract whoever is on the website. It's not just about putting the content and just dashing it all over the place and say that, oh look, I have what the person needs to read and that's it. No, you still have to design the layout, put it in a presentable way so that persons can be attracted and want to stay on your website. For example, having these moving images here, that helps to add to the appeal of the content. Having videos and having all of these different colors and so on, it helps to add to the appeal. So notice with nursery, they even added some little letters and numbers, and for the rest they left those out because it's clearly indicated that those are for those younger children, and they're more plain for the more older ones. So all of that adds to the appeal of the website to help to keep persons on the website. So it's about color, it's about animation, it's about design, it's about all of those elements. How you can make your content presentable to keep persons on your website. So what goes into the footer now? Hitesh?
The footer should include any other information that is important and should be included on all web pages. It should include how recently the content was placed there. Any contact information on copyright, legal or privacy notices.
Good. So any other information you want to add, that can go in the footer. It must be on all web pages. So notice when we go back to CXC's website, the footer, just like the header, just like how the header is always at the top, the footer should always be at the bottom also. So if you change the web page, we still have the header, and when we go to the bottom, we still have that footer at the bottom here. So the footer, as mentioned, has additional information, including how recently the content was updated, contact information, copyright information, notices, and so on. So if you go back to the previous one, you can notice that Ministry of Education, Guyana Copyright 2021 is indicating that all materials on this page is copyrighted. It's owned by the Ministry of Education, so you're not allowed to misuse it. They reserve all rights to the content on this page here. And 2021 is basically indicating to you that the website is updated. So if you check websites and you go to the bottom and they have that for the section, you would actually see the year at the bottom, and that would indicate if they are actually updating their website. That's one way you can know if a website is actually active, when it has that new date, the current year at the bottom there. Good. So what we looked at so far is that websites usually follow, they don't always have to, but this is a general layout of how a website can be built. You have the header section, the footer section, left and right sidebar with the content area. So next we're going to go on to web page content. And Jasmine, could you read that for us?
Web page content. You should really create a web page based on a topic that you know something about. If this is the first web page you have created, do not make it too large and ambitious. Some ideas for web pages could include advertising a trade or business such as hairdressing, landscaping, or music production. A simple structure will be sufficient to develop your skills at preparing information for display and building the site. Sketch a plan of the website structure to get an idea of what you want to share. Figure 6.3. You can also visit each of the recommended website builders in the syllabus. Each one provides samples of online stores, blogs, business, and personal websites.
Good. So how do you know what content is supposed to go on your web page? Well, that can only be possible when you would have already figured out what is the purpose of your website. You would have looked at it in this paragraph here. What is the purpose of your website? What are you creating it for? Who are you creating your website for? So when you know those things, when you know what is your topic, what is your subject, what is your theme of your website, I'm creating it for a plant shop, then you know what content you should have. I must have pictures of plants. I must have information about the different types of plants. I must have information if I'm going to be selling plants, what are the prices, are they available, how can persons get them. Maybe I might have a video of how the different plants look. All of that can only be determined if you know what your website is about. So when you're making your website, you try to not make it too large. You start off small, add what you need for now. Start off with adding what you need, so that persons can get the information that they require, and from that point on, then you can start adding if anything else or any additional content is needed. Remember, if a website gets too large, what can happen? If a website is too large, what happens on the user side?
Takes longer to load.
It takes longer to load. So that goes back to the economy aspect of planning for a website. So you don't want to make your website too large, and then a person who doesn't have very fast internet connection, they cannot view your web page. Why? Because it's too large. There's too much videos, there's too much pictures on this one page, and it takes forever for them to load it. Images are basically high quality. That's another thing too. Yes, you're gonna put images. Maybe it might just be 5 images, but what quality of image are you going to put? Are you going to put 4K images, 8K images, the highest quality? Yes, it's going to look appealing, but it's going to affect persons that don't have reliable internet connection. So those things you have to take into consideration when you are putting your content. So before you put your content though, you should sketch a plan of your website. So we looked at the organizational structure or the navigational structure in the previous chapter. So when it comes to planning for your website, you need to think about what are the categories of content. So for example, this plant shop, you're gonna obviously you must have the home page. What are the different categories? You're gonna have a page about flowers, a page about plants, a page. So these are information about the flower, pages about the plants. Now there's another page about planting ideas, how to plant, what are the different methods of planting, what are the different strategies when it comes to planting. So notice we have 2 different planting web pages here. So yes, they could have been merged together, that the plant is there on one page. So on this page we have the plant, but at the same time it might be too much information to put also what is the method of planting. So you put it on another page, you have it as its own topic area. So the planting ideas, then you can schedule a visit to see what are some of the different methods you have, and then a whole other page for payment and delivery. For the flowers, it came down and branched off to with the different types of flowers. We have potted flowers, we have garden flowers. For the garden, you have seeds and seedlings. So when it comes time for you guys to develop a website or a web page, you need to first think of, well, obviously you need to think of what is the purpose and so on, but when you reach that stage of what content am I gonna put, you need to think of how can I group the content into a specific topic, a specific category, and with that now persons can be able to easily navigate. Now I already mentioned that when it comes to your SBA, when you are developing your web page, it's only one page, but that doesn't mean you cannot make more pages. So what you're gonna do for your web page is that you're gonna put all the content on one page, but at the same time you're gonna develop it as though it is a website. So you're gonna develop it with this same navigational pattern. You're gonna see how what information you can group together, but yet still you're following CSEC's requirement of having everything on the main page, but at the same time you could add your navigational links, create your other pages, with the same content, but just that you're putting it on the specific pages to further make your website more easily accessible. So you're going to still have to look at how you're going to plan the layout, the content of your web page. What basically is going to fall under what, and so on. So one thing to note also is that certain information you don't put at the very beginning of your web page. For example, if you notice, look how far scheduling a visit is located. If you go on a web page, on this page here for plants, not everybody might want to visit the plant shop, because maybe they just come into the website to get information, to just look at what is available. They don't want to schedule a visit. So in that case there, that information is not that important to have on the web page, to have on the main page, to have on that home page. It's not that necessary. So that's another thing to take into consideration when it comes to content. What is more important that you put first on the main page, and what is less important, you can put it further down on the main page, or maybe even on a totally different page. So with that in mind, you do the same for your web page. Remember, everything is going to be on one page. So you have to determine, when it comes to your web page, what is important should be at the top, and then going down in terms of priority. So you have to look at that aspect of it also. So if you think about it, you could imagine this layout here that you're currently looking at, like if it's one page. So if it was one page, the layout or the priority would have been flowers first, and then garden, and then seedlings. They wouldn't have put seedlings first to the top, because then that wouldn't have been a logical order. Or the same for scheduling a visit. They wouldn't have put that at the top here, because they need to look at the information first, get to know what the website is about first, before they know if they want to visit the place at all. So priority of information, the logical manner of it, that needs to be looked into. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so next we have backgrounds and themes. Jeremiah.
When you create a web page, you should consider using a background or theme to help capture the attention of a visitor. This includes the use of color, images, or watermarks to create an interesting background for your web page. A theme can be used to give your web pages a professional look. For example, having all navigational links looking similar, and the background color, the font, and the font color consistent throughout.
Good. So, do I have a website? Where is it? Oh, I'm using the wrong version. So as I would have shown you guys in last week's class, when it comes for design, or when it comes to creating a website, you can use a free website builder. And one of the benefits of using this website builder is that it actually gives you a theme that you can work with. So when we say theme, it basically means it gives you similar colors, similar design, similar patterns, shapes, and so on to the website. So there is no confusion of colors, confusion of elements, and things like that. So I'm trying to load up this page. Is there an option to default? Okay, I think I would have made some unnecessary changes to that. Let me check this one. Good. So with this one here now, with this website builder, this theme, it has a black and orange theme, black, white, and orange theme. So that when you go through it, you are seeing that similar theme. You're not seeing different colors. You're not seeing a rainbow of colors. You're not seeing different shapes and different elements. Notice we have two squares here. As we go down, we continue to see more squares. So we have similar elements, similar design. So when it comes to making a website, your background, your theme that you're going to choose is very important. The colors must be similar. If you're going to use, say for example, like how this orange here has different variation. If you're going to use a color, it's more effective to use a variation in that color. A brighter orange, a darker orange, a lighter orange, instead of using a variety of colors. Red, green, blue, orange, pink, and all of those things. So it depends on the website also, what you're going to make, but in a more professional sense, since most websites are professional based, it will be more effective to have a theme of colors. But even some entertainment sites, even if you're creating a site for a party or for some form of advertising, even the party must have a color. It must have a theme color. And with that now, the theme, you would have to choose a series of colors in that case, and not all colors, so that you can have that in your design. So one thing to note when you're choosing background now, background, I would have mentioned that when we were looking at this website here. Shouldn't have put, I if I did this. So when it comes to background, if you're going to use an image like what you're seeing currently in this background, then you need to be careful that your text that you're going to put on that background is not obscured, it's not hard to read, it's not difficult, because that can add to the negativity of your website. So notice for these texts here, they placed a black and orange box or background behind of them, so that it's easier to see the content and you can still keep your fancy background or whatever you want. So for example, with this one here, we were looking that you cannot have text like this here, where the text is on a background like this, what you're currently seeing, and then we can barely make out the text that you want persons to basically read. So you can have backgrounds like that, but when you do, you must put other backgrounds in place so that you can easily, whoever is accessing your website can easily see the content. If you notice this area also, it has some additional boxes with backgrounds so that it's easier to look at the images, to read the information, and so on. So you got to look at how the background, how the text, how the content basically works together. Alright, next we have text and images, and we're going to have Giovanni.
Text and images. Many website builders have options for you to insert, upload and edit and or remove your text, images and videos. Images and videos can be embedded among the text, or the text can flow around the image. If you create simple web pages using Microsoft Word, any text, graphics, tables, hyperlinks, and other information in the document will be converted to web compatible format when you have the document as a web page. Although early versions of Microsoft Word could not create web pages, saving your document as a single web page converts any text and formatting into HTML code. Any images are also converted into web compatible graphic formats.
Good. So when you're adding your text, you're adding your content, your images, and so on. When you're adding them to your web page or whatever you're using to build your web page, they're going to become converted to that web compatible format so that they can be easily viewed on that web page. Now, we talked about this when we looked at creating that that Word document as a web page. I simply typed in that Word document and I saved it as an HTML file, and I typed no HTML code, and yet still it converted everything into HTML. So that is one way, another way that we can create a web page. So whatever is saved as HTML to be opened with a browser, it actually saves in a format that will be compatible with a web page or a browser so that it can be viewed. Alright, next we have hyperlinks and bookmarks. What are they? How do they work? Jonathan?
Hyperlinks and bookmarks can add structure, organization, and navigational functionality to your web page. Visitors to a website use hyperlinks to move from web page to web page. A hyperlink can be an icon, image, or word that automatically opens another file or document for viewing. You click on a hyperlink to be directed to another web page, file, or document, be directed to another position within the web page, also known as using a bookmark, open a new email message to send using contact details given on the website.
So hyperlinks and bookmarks, they're used to help us to navigate a website. Hyperlinks, so when it comes to organizing our content, if we go back to this diagram of this layout here, we have the layout of homepage, flowers, plants, potted, and all of those things. So each of these will basically be given a hyperlink. And how we organize it is basically that it's going to be some similar to, if we go back to CXC's website. A little bit of CXC. It's going to be similar to CXC's website. Like for example, when you hover on examinations and you see the various forms of examinations, so that is going to be similar to this layout here. For example, you can hover over flowers and you will be able to see the navigational links for potted and garden and so on. So our hyperlinks are used to help us to navigate our website, to travel across our website. So there are some various uses for hyperlinks. One, hyperlinks can be used to help us to go from one web page to another. So for example, if we go back to Ministry of Education, good. For example, this one here now, at the bottom here, it has links to take you to their social media web pages. So if you click on YouTube, it is going to take their social media web page, their YouTube web page. So that's one form of use for hyperlinks, to take you to another page. Now, hyperlinks can be an icon. So for example, the logo here, this is a hyperlink because when you click on it, it takes you back to the home page. So hyperlinks can be an icon, it can be an image, or it can be just a word, like all of these words that you are seeing here. Now, some other uses of hyperlinks, well, we already mentioned it can take you to another page. It can also be used to download a file or a document, or to open a file or a document. So for example, if we go to grade 11 and we want to see the biology worksheet, then if you click on one of these links here, this came up and I can actually download the file. So I am accessing that file through this hyperlink here, file or document. So another use, it can take you to another position within the web page. We already talked about that. It can either take you to another web page or to the same page. So it might take you down to another section. So for example, if I clicked on something at the top here, it might have scrolled down a bit and take me to the footer section if that was the link I would have clicked on. And then that's also called a bookmark. So a bookmark is not only about bookmarking a page, it could also mean that you're bookmarking at a certain section in a page. And then lastly, hyperlinks can be used to open an email. So let me see if you can find one of those. Oh, like for example, this one here. If you click on it, you won't see what's happening because it's happening on my other screen. But if you guys try it, it would actually open a box that would ask you what email service you want to use. So that's basically what's happening right now. A box came up asking me how do I want to use this email here. how I want to send a mail to that email there. So that's basically what hyperlinks are used for, and a few of these you guys are going to have to do for your SBA. You're going to have to create hyperlinks to take you to another page, hyperlinks to download a file, hyperlinks to take you to another position on the page, and even hyperlink to connect you to an email. All of that you guys will have to do also. Alright, our next paragraph, we're going to have Khadija.
You should therefore have a table of contents, navigational area, or home area to allow visitors to use hyperlinks to select specific areas of interest. Hyperlinks can be created in Word and function the same as they would on an actual web page. You can create the hyperlink so that when the user clicks that particular portion of text or even an image, the user is directed to your specified place in the current document, to a web page, or to a given email contact address, figure 6.5. You can also fill out a screen tip describing the link to those who may want a description.
Good. So the navigational area, I already told you guys about that. It's very important to have. That is this area in top here for us to navigate to whatever position on the page we would like to be at. Okay, so this is basically telling us about creating a hyperlink in Microsoft Word, and it's basically going to function as a hyperlink in a web page. So we're basically going to look at how to create web pages in Word first, how to use those hyperlinks. So this is going to be, so you guys are going to start practicing using Microsoft Word with these exercises here. And in our next class, we are going to go through the exercise. So I'm going to call on someone of you randomly for you to do the exercise. So we have 7 exercises. So if you want to come together in your groups, your SBA groups, and do the exercise, I have no problem. And you save that one file and you keep it. At least that way, those who don't have a computer, you can work together and all of you will be able to follow along with the exercise. But please ensure you do it for next week's class. I don't want to hear you telling me that's how you didn't do anything or you weren't following anything. So our next paragraph, Keelan.
Yes, sir.
Can you read for us?
Yes, sir. Bookmarks are hyperlinks that jump to a different part of the web page. They are especially useful on very large documents with many words or sections. They are typically a name, word, or phrase that you assign to a location on the page that you may want to reference later. This means that rather than looking through the whole document or page searching for the location, the bookmark feature can easily locate it. Note that when naming a bookmark, it should begin with a capital letter and can include numbers, not have any spaces between the words. However, you can underscore to join words for longer names.
Good. So if you can remember, this is basically what we learned in database. When you're naming something, you don't put spaces because that can cause issues. When you have spaces, it can be considered as different words, not the same word or the same name. So that's why we don't usually use spaces in IT when we are developing certain programs and software and tools and so on. We refrain from spaces, we use letters, we use numbers, and we use underscores to join whatever we need to join. So as I mentioned, you guys are gonna do those exercises. We're gonna review these questions next week, so ensure you do them also. So in review of what we looked at for today, we looked at there are 3 ways basically that we are going to consider when it comes to building a website. We're going to look at the website builder. That's where you're going to use for your SBA. We're going to look at HTML, which is the traditional method of making a website. And then you guys are going to practice using Microsoft Word in the exercises. This is a general layout of a web page, so you can follow that with the exercise also. Remember what each section contains: header, footer, sidebar, content area, what information goes there. Remember, when you're planning, sketch a layout of your web page. I think they might ask you to do that in your exercise or in one of the questions there. So sketch your layout, ensure you think carefully, logically. Remember, when you're choosing background and themes, the colors must match, the patterns must match, everything must be neat and readable, clear, so on. And then we looked at what are hyperlinks and bookmarks used for. So